Hi, Gary Port for NY Divorce Facts. Matcha. Hello, Izuki. Yuzu. And Kosho. The last few videos I've been talking about children issues. I'm going to sort of shift gears now and talk about something else that I get a lot of calls out about. Can I record my spouse? Boy, what a loaded question that one is. All right, let's start off first with maybe you can, and it depends. New York is called a one-party state. What that means is if one party to a conversation consents to recording it, it's legal. So if you're recording a conversation between you and anyone else, you don't need to tell them you're doing it. As long as you know you're recording it, it's legal. I had a client who was convinced that his wife was cheating on him, so he put a recording device on the house telephone. This is back in the days of these things called landlines. His wife found out about it and she called the cops. Well, she didn't consent and the person on the other end of the phone didn't consent. So this was called wiretapping, a Class D felony in New York. My client had to expend additional money for his criminal attorney for that one. So, one, don't put recording devices on phones. If you are not a party to the conversation and you are recording it, you have committed a felony for which you can go to jail for. Don't do it. Now, there are people that seem to think, maybe because they've seen it on television. By the way, I despise how TV and movies portray the divorce process and lawyers. It is all wrong, and if you follow that advice that you see on TV and the movies, you will end up in a very bad place. And one of those things that can hurt you is recordings. Let me make it really clear. While the recording itself may be legal, judges hate recordings. The last thing a judge wants to hear is that you recorded your spouse. I've got clients walking into my office so happy. I got the goods. I got a recording. I got her dead to rights. And my response is, well, the judge doesn't want to hear that. Recording each other raises the stakes in the divorce, raises the emotional conflict, creates further problems. The judge does not want to have this happen. So, if you think that you can use a recording against your spouse as a sword, you can't. The judge doesn't want to hear the recording. Now, that doesn't mean recordings are not useful. Recordings can be used as a shield. I've got people come to me and say, my spouse makes all these allegations against me, but that never happened. She said I was yelling and screaming at her, but it never happened. So what I say to my clients is if you're worried that your spouse is going to say you did something or said something you didn't say, then record. But don't tell anyone you're recording. We use it as a shield, not a sword. So if your spouse walks in and says, last night he came in and he started screaming at me and calling me a bitch. My client produces the recording. It never happened. That the judge doesn't mind, using as a shield, not a sword. Now the other problem that I see is I have a client who will come in and say, I've got the goods on my spouse. And we listen to the recording. It's horrible for both parties. People seem to think that they can get into a fight with their spouse and their spouse says something terrible and they've got the goods. But when you listen to the whole recording, they're both attacking each other. They're both cursing at each other. They're both behaving inappropriately. And you can hear the kids screaming in the background. Don't do it. Recordings rarely help as swords. But again, they can help as shields, particularly also in contentious custody handoffs. If you have a contentious situation where you and your spouse have real problems and you're dropping the kid off or picking the kid up and you're worried about what he or she is going to say at that transfer, have a recording going. Don't let them know. Watch what you say. And if something bad happens, then we've got the proof. So if you show up at the visitation, everything goes well, and next thing you know, there's a knock on your door because the police are there saying she's accusing you of threatening her when you drop the kid off, you've got the recording that shows nothing like that happened. My advice, though, is before you even think about doing a recording, talk to your lawyer, because your lawyer 9 times out of 10 will say, that's a bad idea. Let's not do this. So keep this in mind. The recording may be legal if you were a party to it. It is definitely illegal if you're not a party to it. And it's generally not a good idea in general to do it. Remember, at Port and Sava, give us a call for a free 15-minute telephone consultation. We try to get you on with the rest of your life. Right, sweetie?